Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Red Hot Truth, a home for the broken where healing begins. I'm Michelle, and I help people heal their soul wounds after abuse and trauma through the love, mercy, and grace of the Lord Jesus Christ. Please hit that like, share, notification bell, leave a comment. All of this is going to help bring these videos to other people. And if you're new here, welcome. Today we're talking about family, and from the perspective of somebody who had two families and lost both of them and then searched endlessly trying to replace them and could never actually fill that void in my heart until I found Jesus. If you have gone through this type of trauma where you have lost a parent young, you have endured scapegoating trauma, you've been the black sheep, you've gone through serious rejection or abandonment by your family, a lot of this is going to resonate with you. I've already shared my full testimony on my YouTube. I share bits of my story in most of these episodes because it helps make it more relatable. In order to understand my journey, you have to understand the grief that I came through in my early years. This is still a pain that is so deep within me and so tender and just such a big wound still that the Lord is trying to heal in me. I've had friends say, why can't you just let it go, move on, heal, like you're healed, you're okay, you don't need to keep healing. But the truth is, if you still have pain, it's okay to sit with that pain, and it's okay to sit with the Lord and give it to Him and to let Him continue to bind up your wounds. Obviously, I'm hoping that it won't always hurt, but it still does hurt now. And that's okay. That's where I'm at right now. When I was a baby, I was taken into foster care because my mother was only 15 when she had me. I was born in a mother and baby home in Ireland. So there was already this indirect rejection that I had experienced because my birth brought a lot of shame on the family. They were so young. It wasn't that common, I suppose, back then for girls that age to get pregnant. It's more common now. People are less judgmental now, I guess. So she ended up going to this mother and baby home in Ireland, and it wasn't as bad as the Magdalene laundries. She wasn't abused, but the fact that those places were still open, those laundries did not fully close down until 1996. So that just shows you there was still all this religious stuff happening in Ireland. A lot of abuse towards women and children and young boys. So many stories around the Catholic Church and so much religious trauma, religious fear, religious shame. My grandfather was a very religious man, and my father was too afraid to tell him that I even existed. So they didn't know about me. Nobody told my grandparents that I existed until I was 2 years old. I was like a dirty little secret, basically. So straight away, I started life with major rejection, major religious trauma, and was taken from my birth mother and placed in a foster home. This foster home, they were a lovely family. They were really kind, genuine people, and they loved me unconditionally, like truly unconditionally. I felt so much love from them. I stayed in contact with them all throughout my life, so that love never went away. They always treated me like their own. They always adored me. I always adored them. Up until my foster mother died, we were very close. But when I was 4, I went home because my mother was now in a position to raise me. But unfortunately, there were bonding issues. She was very young, but she was also emotionally immature for her age. She couldn't really give to me what I needed. And my mother does show a lot of signs of narcissism, which I'm not going to get into in this episode. There was a lot of trauma that occurred with my family and with my father. When I was 4, I was just told, you're going to live with your real family. And I can't remember how I got from A to B. I don't know who drove me there, who dropped me off. Did they collect me? I can't remember anything about that day. All I remember is feeling frozen in time and shocked and very distressed and not really understanding what was happening. Why was I being given to somebody else? Why did I have a new family? I just didn't understand. Then I have flashbacks of hiding in the wardrobe. Don't really remember why I was hiding in the closet, but I was terrified. I just remember really missing my foster dad because he made me feel so safe. And I remember like breaking down in the closet and crying and just feeling so distressed. And this grief wound and this abandonment wound never was healed, never received any counseling or support or care for that. So I just spent years and years and years in this void where I missed them and I grieved for them every single day of my life. Every birthday was hard. Every Christmas was hard. I was missing my family from the age of 4 up until now. And when they died years later, John died like 7, 8 years ago. Carmel died almost 6 years ago. And literally that wrecked me. Earlier this morning saw a vision of me being in the park with Carmel and the kids when they were young. Scott was about 6 months, Kian was like 2, and we were just out walking. I remember feeling a lot of peace around that time. Even though I was struggling with different issues, I was feeling peace as a new mother. I absolutely adored my children and I was really happy. Then he showed me a vision of the last time I walked in the park with her. And I was very dysregulated and anxious, and I was scrolling on my phone and I couldn't focus on the conversation. I was distracted. I remember being mad at myself for that after when I went home. I was like, why couldn't I spend time with her or give her more attention that day? I didn't understand why I was so dysregulated because I always felt peace in her company, but it was because he wasn't there. He had died and that had completely messed me up, you know. I wasn't just grieving for his death. I was grieving for my dad being ripped away from me when I was 4 years old. My safe person who he was literally like this giant teddy bear that I absolutely loved. Like, so much, and we had this really intense bond, you know, which I think most people probably take for granted because most people don't lose that. They don't lose their parents when they're 4. It's crazy how I still can't talk about this. It reminds me like of the story of Samuel, because this happened to Samuel. Like, nobody knows actually like what age he was when he was taken, but a lot of people suspect he was around that age because they say that his mother nursed him. So like around that time, women would have nursed until the child was 3 or 4. So I assume he then went to live with Eli the priest when he was around that age. And he was separated from his parents. Then he went on to be this prophet, you know, for God's kingdom. And like that story just resonates with me a lot. If I didn't go through that, then maybe I never would have became a warrior for God, you know. Everything serves a purpose. Like, he gave me this special safe space where I had so much love, and they were really proud of me, and they would always say, oh, she's such a joy to be around, and we love having her, and we love when she comes to visit, when she comes to stay with us, or when we go on holidays. Like, those were my happiest memories as a child, going to the beach with them, playing in the water. And John was a very jolly, happy man, you know. He was always so full of laughter and fun. So I had so much fun with him. He was just a really good man, you know, a really good influence for me growing up, because my father, my biological father, was a Jekyll and Hyde. If I ended up marrying a man like my biological father, I don't think I would have survived that level of anxiety and stress. So I'm lucky that I had this positive male role model in my life, because it meant that I wanted to be with somebody who made me feel at peace. Psalms 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. I think this actually wounded me the most out of everything that I've been through, being separated from them at such a young age, and then having to live my life with that void. And then when they were taken away, like permanently, and that was it, they're gone, there's no coming back. It literally traumatized me so badly, because I just remember like thinking, there's not enough time. Like, I didn't have enough time with them. It wasn't enough. I had so much regret because I didn't spend enough time with John. Like, I always stayed so close to Carmel when I grew up. When I became an adult, I would still meet her every week, so that wasn't an issue. But me and John weren't as close as we had been. Like, I would only see him maybe every couple of months. And when he was sick, my children were very young, so I wasn't really able to be there in the way that I wanted to be. So I just remember being so distraught when he died, because I didn't have that time. It felt like it wasn't enough time, like all the days that I wasn't with them, all the birthdays, all the Christmases, all the in-betweens, you know, where I didn't see them for a month or 2 months on end, or the times I didn't go on holidays with them because I was on holidays with my other family. There was just so much grief, and it was so complex and so layered. Then when Carmel died, that the dysregulation that I mentioned just became chaos. I've always struggled with my mental health, but for the first time, I was like really worried about my mental health. I was scared. I was like, this is not normal to be this stressed, this dysregulated, this emotional. It was just absolute chaos within every single part of me. My nervous system, her death literally destroyed me in every way possible. So when I found Jesus, that was like a miracle, because finally I had some sort of refuge, somebody that could just cuddle me and help me process these crazy emotions that were just bouncing all over the place all the time. A friend of mine used to describe it as a ping pong in my nervous system, because I would just suddenly get so stressed. And she would say it's kind of like a ping pong, where everything's just bouncing all over the place and your whole nervous system is going crazy and all your emotions, you're dysregulated. You're remembering like 20 different trauma memories all at once, to the point that I couldn't even be around people because they would have literally thought I was crazy. I knew I wasn't crazy, but inside I was just this massive mess. It was awful. And around that time, I started to have all these memories, all these trauma memories were just coming to the surface. I was remembering all the trauma that I went through with my family. The first family, John and Carmel, when they pushed for me to go home, because I think it was their decision, like the social worker, when they dropped me off, they said, we think this one's going to be in care for life, because I don't think my mother really wanted me, but Carmel had her own trauma. She had lost her mother quite young. She had grown up in an orphanage. She had gone through major grief and major trauma. So she thought that she was doing the right thing by trying to get my mother to bond with me and trying to keep that connection close. So she pushed for it. She pushed for me and my mother to connect, and we would meet her a few times a week. Carmel really pushed this bond. It was her decision to send me home. She thought she was really doing the right thing. She thought she was reuniting a mother and daughter. That was healing her trauma, because she had been separated from her mother. But actually, I think me or Carmel didn't have any peace since then. I don't think she had peace. I didn't have peace, because mother's intuition, she knew that I wasn't okay. She must have felt it. I can't imagine if I was being separated from Scott or Cian and they were really stressed and overwhelmed every day, I would feel that and I would not be okay. Because as the mother, like, you know when your child's not okay. And my mother was not really in tune with me at all. Unfortunately, she just wasn't really present emotionally. And I don't think that was her fault. I think she just didn't have the capacity. To her, she thought what being a mother is cooking and cleaning and making sure that I'm clean and making sure that I have toys. And she did all of those things. But she turned a blind eye to the abuse. She wasn't able to connect with me emotionally. She didn't spend any time with me. I don't even remember her ever reading me a story or tucking me in. There just was no emotional connection. There was no real bond. And anything that she ever did with me, she did in such a hurry. She was impatient. She would brush my hair, like, to the point that it would hurt, because she was always in such a hurry. Like, she had no patience and no time for me. So that made me feel like a burden every day over me, and that hurt. In Genesis 50:20, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. So this is me turning my pain into something good, where I'm here and I'm able to help other people who have gone through this type of pain. Psalms 27:10, though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. And Romans 12:19, do not take revenge. It is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. The Lord took all those broken pieces and started to put me back together piece by piece and really healed those scars and healed my broken soul. I'm no longer healing from that. I'm no longer healing from the trauma my father put me through. I'm no longer healing from the rejection that my mother put me through. I'm still healing from the grief of losing my parents, the only parents that I ever truly had. But I feel like I've come so far, and I'm so grateful to the Lord. I was very close to my sister, as I've mentioned before, and I did truly try to protect her and shelter her from so much dysfunction when we were growing up. And when I walked away, and I didn't tell her why, again, I was trying to protect her. I spent all of my life trying to protect other people. But then that meant that nobody ever heard my side of the story. I could never share it. I could never tell the truth because I was so ashamed of some of the things that he had done to me. And he had often mocked me and humiliated me and just made me feel so worthless. And there was so much shame, especially shame around the sexual trauma, that I just couldn't bring myself to say it. I couldn't ever say it. It was too much. For that reason, I ended up losing more people. All the people that I had grown up with who had been a safe space, or so I thought, they all just disappeared because nobody knew my side of the story. And if they did know my side of the story, would they care or would they believe me? I don't know, because they abandoned me. He just left. The Lord had to heal me from that as well. He had to heal me from all of these people who forsake, that's the word. They all left. while I was broken and bleeding on the floor after going through living hell for years. And they left at the worst time of my life, where the stress was so bad that I was literally vomiting every day. It was left to try and recover somehow, try and pick myself up off that floor and raise my family, even though I felt like I was the one who needed to be raised. I needed a parent. I needed somebody to love and take care of me because I was so fragile. And I couldn't. I had to be a mom, wife. I had to keep going and doing all the things despite feeling absolutely fractured. So then the family that I searched for, this brings me to the next point, because a few months after I walked away from my family, say 6 months later, I met two friends. And one was local, one was a long distance friendship where we would chat over WhatsApp and over Zoom. And they became like sisters to me very quickly. And I didn't realize that this was dangerous territory. Sometimes when you get too close to people, you spend too much time together, you confide in each other a lot. That can either become too overwhelming and stressful, or it can become enmeshed. And it was kind of a bit of both. On one hand, me and my local friend were kind of smothering each other to the point that we both started to get really annoyed for me and I need to take a step back. Then the other friend, we met each other when we were in the New Age and we were both into witchcraft, and I didn't realize how dangerous witchcraft was at the time. But when you're engaging in witchcraft practices like Reiki, tarot, mediumship, or New Age types of healing, that causes a witchcraft spirit to attach to you. And I'm very sensitive to this spirit. It makes me very sick. It didn't make her sick. We both had the same witchcraft spirit, but she wasn't getting sick all the time, but I was. I was sick all the time. Literally vomiting, feeling really unwell. I think that's my gift of discernment that the Lord gave me. So when something is spiritually off, when something is wrong, my body reacts to it. I've reacted to things my whole life. The Lord wants me to keep my vessel pure and clean as much as I possibly can. So when I was engaging in those witchcraft kind of things, I wasn't pure and clean, and I was getting sick. I was so sick from it. It was actually awful. Even when we came to Christ and we both became born again, we both dedicated our lives to Jesus. We both started going to church. We both started renewing our mind. We were doing the right things. But she was still engaging in some occult type healings unintentionally and unknowingly. And so was I, in a way, because we had done that for so long that we were still learning. We were figuring it out. When you become newly Christian, you don't just get everything right all straight away. It takes time. He has walked me through this process of sanctification, like I said. I've been very thorough and diligent in trying to make sure that I'm not doing anything that dishonors God. But we're human. We're going to make mistakes. And the enemy is deceitful. He does deceive us, no matter how much discernment you have. I was aware the whole time that I could be deceived. And I was on high alert for that. I kept asking questions like, is this deception? Is this God? Like the angel devil on your shoulder. I was very much aware of that was happening. And I was always kind of fighting against it and trying to make sure that everything that I put out online or every bit of work that I did, the deliverances that I was doing, I was really trying to be thorough and make sure that it was all clean. But then she kind of let it slip to me at one point that it had only just occurred to her that she could be deceived too. She thought that I was the only one who could be deceived. She didn't think that she could be deceived. For some reason, I don't know where she got that thought from, but she had this belief that she couldn't be deceived. So she was still taking every intuitive message as God. Everything, every thought, every emotion, every deception, she thought it was all coming from God. And I was like, whoa, I was really taken aback by that when I realized that. That's a big red flag. Then the connection fell apart for multiple different reasons, but we went our separate ways. And I had become so enmeshed with her to the point that we would confide in each other. We would heal together. We would deliver together. We did everything together. All the healing of my trauma, healing her trauma. It just became so enmeshed and we became really intertwined. When you're coming along trying to fix everything, fix somebody, heal all their wounds, deliver them, like that's the job of Jesus. We're meant to lead people to Christ and give them some guidance, be a guiding light, offer them support when they need it, be a friend. But it's his job to do most of the healing and the sanctification and the deliverance. So if we're trying to be the healer all the time, which we both were, we both had this savior complex, and that became our identity. Growing up in broken homes, our identities became being the mediator, being the problem solver, being the one that everyone could depend on, being the person that took care of everyone. That kind of became my identity and hers. So we were trying to be that. We were trying to be the healer of everyone. And when that becomes your identity, Satan can really take advantage of that. So we were going wrong in so many different areas. But I was actually becoming enmeshed with so many different people in that way. Energetically, there was these energetic exchanges that had happened. There was ungodly soul ties. There was people who I had gone to for tarot readings, people that I had received false prophecy from, false tongues. If I had watched false prophet online, there was literally a soul tie there to those people that was giving the witchcraft spirit permission to stay and permission to keep attacking me. It just becomes such a mess. That's why I mentioned the maze of religion. Like I came out of a broken family, went into the New Age, went into religion. Religion was worse than the New Age for me in terms of stress. Same witchcraft spirit still attacking me all throughout this maze of religion. Then finally the Lord pulled me out of all of it, and He had used all of these experiences to teach me and train me and heal me. But the reason why I was going into all of these places, trying different churches, finding a church community, finding these different friends, because I was searching, trying to replace the families that I had lost. And I had my little family here with me all the time, you know, Chris and the children and our dog, which I'm so grateful for. But sometimes it feels a little bit too quiet. At Christmas, birthdays, the community aspect isn't there. And like I said, there was a void. So I was kind of starting to fill that gap. And I just couldn't fill that void. And I'm recognizing that I don't need to. I don't need to keep trying to fill it. That I can just let Jesus fill that void in me, and I don't have to go to churches that are full of religious spirits. I don't have to find friends that have an agenda. And we got to be so careful. John 1:12. But to all who believed him and accepted him, he gave the right to become children of God. We are God's children. I am his daughter, and he loves me. And when I'm having a bad day, or I'm feeling really sad, or I'm drowning in grief again, I feel the Lord's presence, and I kind of feel him putting the sign of the cross on me. And he says, daughter. He reminds me, you know, you're my daughter. You don't need anybody else. You have me. That has to be enough for us. Because in order for him to truly bind up our wounds and heal us and set us free, we have to let him be our everything. That's how we truly get free. So my final point is the support system that never actually came. That crashing reality where I realized that I've been trying to fix everything in my life for a long time, and I actually can't fix it. And I had to just let it all crash and burn. I had to let the church community go because they were just not in alignment in any way. They were too rooted in fear, and there was lots of religious spirits and legalism and cookie cluster Christianity. I had to walk away from the friends who I literally thought were like sisters. Again, trying to replace family with friends who can discard you at the drop of a hat, you know, which is what happened with one of them. I was just thrown away. That was very, very painful after everything that we had gone through together. It made me realize, you know, we were never sisters. It was never real. It filled a void for her. It made her feel powerful. It made her feel seen and validated for a while. It helped her when she was bored. It became her little project. And then she just traded me in for somebody else who then became her pet project again. And she repeated the same pattern and the same cycle. And I just realized that I didn't actually mean anything to this person, just like I didn't mean anything to my family. And that realization is a very heavy hit when it comes, and you're like, wow, I was just being used by this person. This person thought that they could ride on my back and ride on my anointing and get to the top without doing any work as well. Because people just come along and they use you, and then they discard you when they don't get what they want. That's a very disappointing reality. In the other churches that I went to, where one was being led by a throne of Baal, one had a spirit of death over it, and the other was being run by witchcraft. Wow. Just suddenly dawned to me, I'm never going to find my community in a church. That's not where my tribe are. My tribe are here. The people listening to this podcast, the people who've been through this level of hell, the people who know what it's like to go through what I've gone through. That's who my people are. And I'm not going to find that in some fake community where everything's really superficial and they call you family, but they keep you at arm's length all the time. That is not family. People trying to compete with you, people entering power struggles with you, people wanting to be right, and people wanting to control your walk with the Lord, even though you're still learning. And you're learning at your own pace, and He's guiding you, so you don't need them to guide you. You know, it's all so controlling and just so over the top and so exhausting and stressful. I was like, Lord, I don't want to do any of this anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. I just want to help people. That's all. I don't want to be in the church. I don't want to deal with these people who think it's okay to tell other people how to live. All the indoctrination, the programming, the fear-based teachings. I want some normalcy, to live my life on my terms. I want to be happy, and I just want to love my children and Chris and our dog and have fun. Maybe get another puppy. That's what I'm thinking of. Adding more love to our family and spending some real time helping this audience and focusing on my music. That's what I need. That's what my soul needs. And maybe the Lord will bring me a couple of friends that I can actually trust when the time is right. But for now, I just need to put it down and not keep trying to fill that void with people, because people are never going to fill that void. Only Jesus can fill that void when you have gone through this level of pain. Timothy 4:16-17, at my first defense, no one came to my support, but the Lord stood at my side and gave me strength. That is so true. Jesus has been the light of my life in every way possible. And I feel like every single thing I've done in the last 3 years has been guided by Him, even though I've made mistakes and it's been a roller coaster, and He's even led me to places that were negative. But I needed to see that. I needed to understand that the answer doesn't lie in religion. It doesn't lie in the local pastor or the local church or a book or a friend or somebody who wants to call themselves your spiritual mom. The answer lies in Jesus. He is the answer. He is the solution. And He is the one that is going to heal your soul and put you back together and help you to be the best version of yourself. And then realizing that I have this beautiful family right in front of me all along. I have a good man and 2 beautiful children and my dog that was a gift from God. The name Nala literally means gift. I'll share the story of how I got Nala sometime, but she literally was a gift from God, and she came into my life at a time where I really needed her and the children needed her. And God really does bless us in so many ways. He may not always bless us financially. That was another delusion that one of my friends had, where she thought the reason why her life had gotten so much better and she had so much more money and everything was because God had blessed her and He hadn't blessed me. And that really hurt me when she would say things like that, because it's kind of manipulative and it's a weird ideology. New age and idealistic. The Lord has blessed me in so many ways. He has walked beside me in my wilderness. He has sheltered me in the storm. He has helped me release so much fear. He has healed the disease in my body. What good is it having money if you're too sick to spend it? It's not all about money. Sometimes the Lord will keep you in discomfort. You need to be in a certain level of discomfort and trial so that you will continue to show up and do the work necessary, so that you don't get distracted, so that you're not too busy doing all these other shiny things, that you forget to walk your process, that you forget to do the inner work, that you forget to do your healing, that you forget to let Him renew your mind. Sometimes the distractions that come in are actually outside noise that can sabotage you. He's protecting you from that because He knows how important it is for you to get free from these inner wounds and to get free from the demonic attacks or the people in your life maybe that He's trying to lead you away from. He has to make you uncomfortable for a period of time, because that's often where we go through our most growth. When we go through hard things, we grow so much. And when you are like a little seed in the ground and you have the Holy Spirit constantly pouring into you over a 2 or 3 year period, by the time He's ready to release you from that wilderness season, you have grown into this beautiful, big, blossoming tree that is now able to give so much life to others. And that process may have taken longer if there was too many distractions. So I can understand why I've had to go through these trials and be uncomfortable during it. It was to protect the anointing. Because if God gave me everything that I wanted 5 years ago, then would I have even done all of this? What reason would I have had to embark on this crazy journey with him if I had everything that I wanted and needed. He poured into me in the most beautiful way. And I know that he's going to continue to bless me as this podcast and this family grows. And I'm just grateful that he has sustained us throughout the wilderness, because it was hard. We didn't have any sort of luxury whatsoever, but I had some level of comfort. I mean, the disciples didn't have a roof over their heads and warm water and food in the fridge. I've had more comfort than what Jesus had. And I'm grateful for that. It's about perspective. You have to see it through the lens of God, because he will give you exactly what you need. And you just have to trust him, trust the process, and be grateful for everything that you do have. And when the time is right, he's going to give you so much more. So guys, I pray that this episode today was a blessing to you. I love you all so much, and I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you for your patience with my emotional roller coaster today. I think it's important for us to be vulnerable and real about what we're truly feeling so that we can let it out. You let go by letting it out and then moving forward. By holding it all in, it doesn't actually free you. It just keeps you in the pain longer. If you would like to support this ministry, there's multiple ways you can do so below in the description. I have a donation link, or I have some really amazing books or some really high quality natural supplements. You can check those out below. And I will see you guys in the next one. I love you lots. Bye. Remember to stay close to Jesus, because freedom is yours.